Hi everyone, this is Miss Carvalho. Sorry, I am not feeling well and I'm at home, but I wanted to go through these notes with you because they can be kind of difficult. So this should be page 26 in your notebook. And let's get going. All right, so there's these three special types of equations that look a little different than the ones we've been solving. And we talked about the first one last class. See how that 12 is in the front? So we need to know the sign in front of the 12, right? And if there's nothing there, then it's a positive 12. So we got to do the opposite. So we're going to identify the sign that's in front of the constant. That minus sign behind the 12 goes with the 3. So that's saying a negative 3 times x. So we're going to identify the sign, and then we're going to use the opposite inverse operation. So the opposite of plus 12, because that's a positive 12, is minus 12. So we're subtracting 12 on both sides of the equal sign. And that leaves us, that cancels out the 12 and the negative 12, and that leaves us with the negative 3x, and negative 6 minus 12, check that on your calculator, is negative 18. Then I got to do the opposite of times a negative 3, which is dividing both sides by a negative 3. So divide both sides by a negative 3, and that cancels out my negative 3 on top and bottom to equal 1. And negative 18 divided by negative 3 is 6. So this one is make sure of the sign in front of the variable. All right, addition and subtraction. So this one is like one big fraction. There's addition or subtraction in the numerator. So if we did order of operations here, it would be plus 7 divided by 10. So when we're going backwards and doing the opposite, it would be times 10 first in this one. So the do or the order of operations is addition first in this one because you got to do everything on top before you divide it by 10. So when we go backwards, we're going to multiply both sides by 10 first. So we're going to eliminate this fraction basically by using the inverse operation and multiplying both sides by 10 off to the side, remember, because that's how we multiply fractions. That's going to cancel out my 10 and my 10 and leave me, or 10 over 10, and leave me with that c plus 7 and negative 60 on the right side. And then I'm just left with plus 7, and the opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides, and that's going to leave me with c equals on this side, because that cancels the 7 and negative 7, and this is a negative 67. So this is like the big fraction, and you got to get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides first, because that's reverse order of operations for that problem. All right, last one is when there's a negative in front of the letter, in front of the variable. So the first way is once the constant's removed, place an invisible 1 in front of the variable. So basically there's like an invisible 1 in front of, between this negative and the y. So place an invisible 1 there, and that's basically the coefficient. So instead of like the top problem, there was a negative 3 and we had to divide by a negative 3. This one's a negative 1, so we need to divide by a negative 1. The other way to look at this is that once the constant's removed, just change both sides and put the opposite sign. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to subtract 4 on both sides, and that leaves us with the negative y, and on this side, negative 12. If there's a minus sign or a negative in front of the variable, you just basically change the sign on both sides, because we're dividing by a negative on both sides. And when you do that, it'll flip the side. So like a negative divided by a negative is a positive 1. A negative 12 divided by a negative 1 is a positive 12. So it kind of flips the sign. All right, guys, so today, after these notes, you're going to work on some activities, practicing solving equations. Do your best to stay focused and on track.